Hello, it's me, Travis of Giggles and Bits, and this is Saturday afternoon with Travis and Tam. And Tam, why don't you introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Tam, and yeah, I'll be joining you as I do most
Yay!
Saturdays.
Woo! Yep, most days because you skipped one day.
I did skip one day.
Yeah, that's okay. That's okay. We took last week off, and I think we just I think we kind of needed a I needed a break anyways to catch up on some chores, and I got Barry in my lap, who's just starved for attention. And I'm not using my camera as much today because I have monkeypox, like all over my lips. Times are hard. Got to pay the bills, and sometimes that means putting yourself at risk. Uh, no, no, I've been sick and I got a cold sore. It's not too bad, but yeah, I just don't want to gross anybody out that has agoraphobia or something like that because I have huge holes in my lips right now. And I'm just waiting for my nose to rot off. Oh wait, that's monkeypox. I keep getting them confused. So
Have you like totally sprung this up on me? You like went to your picture right before the countdown, and I was like, wait, are we? Like, I wish I got a chance not to show myself.
yeah, no, I'm just kidding. No, it's not that bad.
No,
Still
just
bad.
no, you should use it if you want.
No, it's okay. Oh my gosh, berries, all sorts of crazy. Yeah, it's been wild. A lot of stuff has come out. House of the Dragons dropped. We've gotten 2 episodes of that so far. First episode I thought was super boring. You don't have HBO Max, so you haven't seen it, right?
No, I haven't seen it.
Okay, yeah. It's yeah, the first episode was really boring. I think I covered that in my first review, and then the second episode was much better. I mean, the acting is really good. The special effects are not like amazing, but they're good enough. They're like probably movie quality special effects just for like passing movie quality. Um but the second episode I thought was a lot better, was paced a little bit better, uh, and everything. So I was like, all right, cool. I wasn't expecting a whole lot out of that, but it 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 surprised me, and I've actually been enjoying watching the first 2 episodes of that. Something I cannot say for Amazon's Lord of the Rings, Rings of Power.
Yeah, it's bad.
That is like so. I had like I asked you to watch it, even though
Yeah.
you didn't really have any interest in watching it. Um, because maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's not boring. Maybe the dialogue isn't stupid. That's the best way to describe it. They do it like what was it? It was Shadversity actually described it. Yeah, thanks, Barry. Um, Shadversity described it on Friday Night Tights. It's like maid and butler dialogue. So at a certain point during stage plays, they would bring out somebody that was like the maid or the butler to explain the emotions going on with the main characters, like what they're doing, like their motives and stuff like that. And it was so boring, and it was just, it's like if you can't like, it's a lazy thing for a script writer to do or a playwright to do to uh, give you information about a character because they don't know how to show you what the character is about, or like how like show you how the character reacts to certain situations. They have to tell you, this is the reasoning behind the character's actions and motivations. I feel like for the Hobbit girl, Nori, we like every time somebody opens their mouth and talks about her, they're basically like introducing the character to us, telling us, "Oh, that's just how Nori is. She goes off the beaten path. If there's a rule, she'll break it." And even Nori's like, "It's like we have to help him. It's what we do." And her friend is like, "No, Nori, that's what you do." And it's just like, okay, like why is this dialogue here? And like that's just an overt example, and it's just like, like they walk around the corner and the elf and Bronwyn are looking at a hole, and they literally say, "Look at this hole." It's like, well, fuck, like you guys are literally standing in front of the fucking hole. I'm sure you can both see it. I don't understand why you had to say, "Look at this hole."
It's probably because they know the audience has tuned out by that point, so they need to be aware that
Yeah,
there's a change in the scene.
yeah. Oh my gosh, it's just it's a it's atrocious. It's so bad. It's yeah.
Yeah, I'm not interested in any of the interpersonal relationships because they've like kind of introduced people in scenes together, and
Yeah.
I don't even care.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'll tell you, like this is like
Like they
this
don't have good
is
chemistry, or I don't know. I'm not
there are
interested.
yeah, there like no yeah, nobody has any chemistry with each other. Like none whatsoever. And if there is like if they're trying to build chemistry, it seems super forced. And I'm not a big fan of sort of the like role reversals with everything. So all of the men in this show seem to be hiding something and being um like they're all hiding something and being duplicitous in some way, shape, or form, or they come off as just completely inept. Every single man in the show, like there's not a single one. Even like the elf guy, the I can't remember the name of his character because I honestly don't like what was his name. They said it a couple of times, but
No idea. I
like you
can't say.
seriously you try to sit through this show and like you're trying to pay attention, and then the next thing you know, you're knitting. Like you're doing like you start doing something else and you don't even realize like what the hell's happened on the show. And it's just like okay, like I'm trying to pay attention. I'm not trying to ignore this, but for some reason like something distracts me. And it doesn't even have to be something shiny. Like I could just anything could just like I saw a random spot on my wall and I just started staring at that because trying to figure out what that spot was more interesting than trying to sit through the show and follow along with whatever the fuck was going on. And there's no sense of time or space. Like people just teleport to the next location. You don't really see anybody traveling, and the one time you do see people traveling, it's just to show off how badass Guy Ladriel is climbing the mountain. Her troops are like catching their breath when they get to a ledge, and then they look up, and she's like already halfway up to the next section, and they're all just like, "Ugh." Well, for one, I have a problem with that because they're elves. Elves like don't really get tired. Like they can conserve their energy. Like they're fucking inhuman strength and agility on top of it. So like they're not weaklings. So unless they've been going for like years and years, which I guess they have been going for centuries or something like that. But it just doesn't make any sense. Some of the things that go on, just super inconsistent.
Honestly,
And
after centuries of being on that quest and following her, they would have all been at her skill level.
yes, yes, they're not like these are like they're all veterans. So again, to that point, it doesn't make any sense that when the ice troll shows up, they're all getting beat to shit. And
Yeah.
like they're all just getting waylaid, and she runs out into the room and just sits there and watches for like a good like minute and a half as they're all getting tossed around and beaten up. And then right before like somebody's about to get gored in the stomach, all of a sudden uh elf number two, I don't like they don't give a names for any of
Yeah.
these other guys. Elf number two like does this like fancy like looks back and drops his sword, and she steps on it and he flings her into the air, and it's like super choppy. Like you get her like flying through the air, and then she lands on the backside, and then the editing for the fight scene after that is super choppy. Like there's no connecting motion between anything that she's doing. And then all of a sudden she like slices its throat open, and then blood splatters on the camera, and it's like, whoa, Like, why would blood splatter on the camera? This is a fantasy show. Like, there's no cameras in Middle Earth. Like, there's like, why would the elements of the show interact with the lens on the camera? Like, that's a neat feature, but that's distracting and completely unnecessary. It's like, hey, you know what? We have an extra $20,000. What should we do here? Ooh, have blood splash on the screen. That's cool. Like, okay, but how does that tell the story? It's like, story? You're right. Let's just put it on there. And that like everything in this show comes off as, oh, that would be really cool to put into this show. Let's put that into the show. And then it's like okay, but how does that contribute to the story? And everyone just is like dead silent, like, "Ah, you're right. We have the money. Let's just do it." Every single scene in the show is just like, look at how much money we spent. Look at how much money we spent. Big, huge vistas that they show you is misleading because every time you see characters interact with each other, it's a super tiny, tight set, like really small spaces. Matter of fact, the best looking shot, and I have it here, I have it pulled up already. The best looking shot in the show is this because it's one of the few times that you actually get a like wide vista and actual distance between two characters. Like that's it. Like this open field here is the closest we get to a wide expansive shot because the rest of the show is super tight anytime two actors are interacting with each other. It's so weird. It's so weird the way it's shot. It's abysmal. And I'm sorry I tortured you into watching this. So, but I'm done. I'm not watching anymore. These 2 episodes, I'm fucking finished. I'm so finished with this fucking garbage.
Yeah.
Um,
I like, after we talked last night, I was looking online to see what the general mood was about
mhm.
the show, and all I could see was stunning visuals, like, just all this hype about it, and I was like, "Man, that show was terrible." Like, what about the
Yeah,
actual storyline? Do you guys wanna comment about that? But the
right.
most things I see is the amount of money that was spent, the visuals, and yeah, positive stuff.
Yeah,
It's not
positive
a good
stuff.
show, like, at
No,
all.
it's not.
I think they're trying to convince me it's a good show,
Yeah,
but I'm just not feeling it.
yeah. It's just not. And like the acting for the most part, I feel is varying in degrees, and it's hard to tell how good the acting is because the writing and the dialogue for these characters is just tepid and uninspiring and just full of like just moron sayings like, oh, it got out of control like rabbits running to the moon. And it's like, what? Like, what the fuck does that even mean? Like, it's out of control like rabbits running towards the moon? It's like I guess that would be chaotic for rabbits if they were trying to get to the moon because they're fucking rabbits, but how does one come up with that as a saying? Like, how is that like a piece of diet? Like, how is that like an idiom that you would find in a culture? Like, what is the root of that? And then there's some things that they use that are supposedly like idioms that they would um, use within their culture, but they're just so cringy. Like, hey, can you give me a foot here? Or my heart is as big as my foot, like the Harfoots, which are hobbits. I don't know how many times that like they try to say that they're hobbit adjacent, like they're not really hobbits, but they're fucking hobbits because they're Harfoots. Harfoots are hobbits. They're one of the three groups. Um, it's oh my god. There's just some really really dumb shit that happens in this show for no fucking reason. And then there's a lot of like coincidental shit that happens, like the the chick that lives out on the edge of town just happens who is trying to prove to the town that there's a tunnel of potential orcs. Like I don't like there's like a town's been wiped out. There's nobody living. Like for one, they say there's no bodies there, but when they get there, There's literally like a body of a dead sheep. It's like, okay, like why would the orcs just take the people and leave the sheep? Orcs eat meat. They don't care where the meat comes from. They eat everything. So they would have taken the sheep too. So why would they, like, you say no bodies, but there's clearly a body right there, just no human bodies. So the dialogue doesn't even accurately describe the situation, and there's just like really weird like design choices. Like the attention to detail, they seem to let some things slide, and then they're like super detailed on other things. For the most part, the entire thing just plays out like somebody's like wet dream of like what they, like what a 14-year-old would think a fantasy show would be about.
Yeah, it's like a caricature of the original
Yeah.
material.
Yeah.
Just
Oh my
so
gosh.
yeah.
Yeah. It was difficult to get through. Like I had to take a break after the first episode. I think you only got through half of the first episode
Yeah,
before you
30
had to
minutes
take a
in.
break.
Yeah. And that
Oh
was a
my
struggle.
gosh. But Tamara, if for with us not liking it, it's because we're racist.
Mm.
Okay? We are racist for not liking this show. The Rings of Power star Lenny Henry implies critics of Amazon's race swapping are racist. They have no trouble believing in a dragon, but can't accept that a black person could be a hobbit or an elf.
Oh,
Um,
were people commenting on that? I had no idea.
yeah, it's more along the lines of it's really strange that they have that they like they push that there were black hobbits and black elves, but we don't see any of them. Like that's just not the way that Tolkien described it, because Tolkien created a mythology for England and what England looked like, so it's going to reflect the world that he lived in at that time. So I mean, he didn't create like it's not like everybody is white in that. There are like darker colored races and stuff like that. He mentions them. You even see them in the second and third movie for Lord of the Rings, building up to the Return of the King and everything. But it's just like that's I don't really see anybody really criticizing that, and they seem to be taking this a little like way too personally. It's just a matter of like we know what the lore is. He describes everyone pretty clearly and who they are. And the whole reason why the showrunners decided to make black hobbits during this time period is because there's just not a lot of record that was created by Tolkien to describe what these the hobbits look like at this time. Now the Harfoots, which don't like they're not the hobbits really aren't supposed to be around at this time. Nobody's really supposed to know anything about them because they didn't do anything. They are a race and species that's meant to be in hiding, but the way they depict them, it just doesn't really make sense in the show because they're hiding all the time. I don't know. There's a whole bunch of things wrong with this, but um, yeah, it's it's not it like it's not about racism. It's just about like they didn't add these people in a thoughtful way. They added these diversity. They added the diversity in these races just for the sake of having diversity on the show, and that's like that in itself seems racist. Like I don't know, like oh well, we really need to have black people in the show because black people could never identify with a white person. It's like, well, why are you so obsessed with race? Like why can't you just create characters? Like you've gone out of your way to take Lord of the Rings, a Tolkien product, and make it as untolkien as possible. And when people complain of the changes that you've made to Tolkien's lore, you you say that they're racist and bigoted for doing so. Um, like why couldn't these people create a fantasy show on their own with all of this diversity? Because it's happened before. It's been done before. I mean, to varying degrees of success, but I just don't understand um, this backlash. Like if the show was good, it'd be completely different. But the show is just objectively bad. Like we don't have to like We complained about this beforehand because it was just like, oh, okay, well, they're changing stuff. We need to be wary about it. But we get to the actual show, and the show itself is just, speaks for itself on its shittiness.
So I've never heard of this like headline before.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and
Yeah.
I haven't like with no background in any of that, the things that happened before it was released, and now it's
Yeah.
just a bad show.
Yeah. Yeah. It is just a
Not an
bad show.
interesting show. Yeah.
Yeah. And the hobbits themselves actually, I forgot about this. The hobbits themselves don't start keeping record of their own history until about the beginning of the Third Age. So at this point in time, they have no record keeping whatsoever. But suppose for some stupid reason, um, Sadoc Burrows, the person that Lenny Henry plays, has a book with like star charts, like tell him like what the skies look like. Like it's just so there's so much lore breaking. Like there's no record of that, but supposedly they're keeping record of things, even though it's established in the lore that they're not keeping records until later on, which is why I think they're trying to call them as elf adjacent. But oh man, it's just really sad. And the Harfoots are just annoying as fuck. I don't like the way they talk and the way they like they're gossipy and shit like that. Like they're supposed to be a nomadic tribe moving around, but they're super gossipy and they shit on each other and start like I don't know. It's just very strange the way they built that whole like civilization, the way they interact with each other. Very weird. But my god. Yeah, I'm done. And the close-ups, the fucking close-ups. The close-up shots that happen is just so dumb. And it doesn't happen until the elf uh black elf and Bronwyn are like staring at each other. It's very weird. And there's shit that's foreshadowed that never comes to light. Like they foreshadowed that damn dog, that wolf following them from the berry patch, and uh, we're 2 episodes past that, and we still haven't fucking seen the wolf. Like where the fuck did it go? Like why would you tease something and then completely ignore it for more than an episode? Like why would you tease anything that's supposed to like oh my like for one, if you're going to make an interesting show that holds our fucking attention, make it interesting all the way through. We're fucking 2 hours into this, and I still haven't seen any sort of like momentum or buildup in the storyline. Like where the fuck are we? Like what has been accomplished? I don't know. It's just it's disappointing because it is very pretty. I'm just like scrolling through stills and stuff like that. It's a very pretty show. But it takes 30 minutes for freaking Galadriel to get back to the Elf High Capital to get shipped off to fucking nowhere, even though she has evidence. It's just, I don't know. I don't know. I'm done talking about it. How about you?
Yes, we can
Yes.
move on.
Let's fucking get away from this evil place. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. All right. So, as far as pulp culture stuff, like there was those things. I'm glad we got that out of the way. That was. I don't know anything about the lore. Well, I can't say that because I know some things about the lore. I've read half of the Silmarillion and a couple of chapters of the Fellowship. That was back when I was living at home with our parents, and so I haven't gotten any copies for myself since I moved up here. So, but I do plan on reading that stuff. But so all of my criticism is purely, um, my main criticism are just purely on the way the show is shot, the dialogue, the pacing, and the editing. And just this like there's no chance for any momentum to happen because every time they change scenes they pull out and show a map of everything and then broad sweeping landscapes and then they pigeonhole you in this tiny little fucking little stage where everybody's interacting and it's like then the camera's like right here in your face and there's it's just like they're just like looking at each other and it's just all shaky cam fucking bullshit. Oh, I fucking hate it.
And the soundtrack was terrible too.
Yes, what is with this
Such
the
sweeping soundtrack, like just music
yeah, where's the trumpets?
and these little scenes.
Where are the trumpets? Oh my gosh. But yeah. Goodness gracious. All right, but okay, for real this time. I'm done talking about that. Um so quite a bit of stuff going on out there, and there's a there's just some really strange things going on with television shows, and the uh, acceptance seems to be a huge thing. Which acceptance is good, but there's stigmas for a reason. There's like there's you want to recognize certain natural things that are out there because those are poisonous things. You don't want to they're poisonous for a reason. Poisonous snakes have specific patterns. They want to be left, like if they're camouflage snakes, the snake wants to be left alone, or they're an ambush predator. Those are the type of things. And then sometimes in nature, makes things super bright and colorful. So that like bees can find flower and pollen and stuff like that. That's why flowers are super bright and colorful. And then insects and uh, and some birds will be super colorful, like cardinals. Uh, for cardinals, the male cardinal is super bright, and that's because they're easy to see. They're supposed to run distraction and draw all the attention from the female who's covering for the nest. So female cardinals look kind of like they're gray in color. They're still really pretty. I like the coloring on cardinals. Um, but they're that's set up because of a reason. And then some insects are colorful because they're poisonous. Some small amphibians are colorful because they're poisonous. Usually, bright, colorful insects or amphibians being colorful means that um, they're poisonous and you should stay away. Like they're letting you know that they're dangerous. They will kill you, but they don't want to kill you. That's why they're super colorful. Um, there's a reason for stigmas on certain things. It's about survival. And there's a reason why people have stigmas for um, certain things involving children, because children need to grow and develop to become contributing members to all of society. And there's been a sad push to push individualism, and that's a very American thing. We're proud of being individuals ourselves because America itself is uh, a trailblazer in terms of establishing a democratic republic, right? So it's not just the way America works with our government system that has been different from other government systems. Is we don't just have majority rule for groups. We have we have areas of the country represented by specific representatives. We have senator counts, like depending on the population and the breakdown of the state. Certain states have more than one senator just because of their population, and those senators go to the federal government or the state government.
Like the
And
House of Representatives?
yeah, and they all like they have like weighted representation based on
Mhm.
the number of representatives we have elected to them. So it's done that way, and the electoral college is weighted in such a way so that the folks that live in the sparse populated areas of urban America, like I do, um, and the densely populated areas, like where you live, the electoral college makes it so that the votes cast in my part of the country count just as much as the votes your part of the country accounts for. Because if it was just based on population, the major cities would account for all of the votes, and the entire country would go in whatever direction the most densely populated part of the country um, wants to go. And that doesn't jive well with the less densely populated areas. So it's just a way for checks and balances to make sure that everyone's voice is represented and that one side doesn't have too much of a voice. And the reason why I get into all of that is because there is a very vocal group. They're not a majority, but as loud as they scream and shout and uh, holler at people, they make it a point to tell everyone that they are right and that their way is the best way. And this comes in the form of pushing progressive ideals. Progressivism in itself is not a terrible thing, but you have to have a checks and balance with something like conservatism, which says, well, like true conservatism is would nothing would ever change, right? We would just stay to the most simplistic way. Everyone gets their fair share, everyone works their asses off. But in all honesty, that doesn't totally work out. You have to have some progressive ideas where the community steps in and helps out. But progressivism, I think, is something that is works best on a small scale, whereas conservatism I feel like works best on a large scale. So at the like a community level, like in my small community that I live in, if we chip in and help out, that makes sense because we're held accountable to just ourselves. And it works when it's community driven as opposed to government driven. The progressivism should stay within the community, and conservatism should be about the government protecting the individual rights. Which and it's not going to be perfectly working out that way. But the reason why I bring this up is because progressives have there's a extreme group of progressives that have made their voice so loud that it has seeped its way into everything. And there is a massive push in this country to uh, for trans acceptance, which I think is great. I think accepting trans people is fantastic. What I don't agree with is there's a small group within that people fighting for rights for trans people is a group that is pushing this false ideology that we have, um, that that it is more common than we were led to believe. And what I'm getting at is these groups that push that if you think or do things a certain way, then that means you are a girl or a boy. Um, and it has nothing to do with uh, biology. It's purely a thing that is involving uh, just how you feel in the moment. And um, unfortunately that is not true, and that is something that's called gender dysphoria, and it should be treated as such. Now there are some individuals out there that do feel way more comfortable um, being something else, and to a degree that is fine. But and it used to be that those people would just live their lives dressing up that way, but then surgery started to become more and more widely accepted. I don't know if you knew this, but the part of the country that transgender surgery was first developed and most widely accepted was in and around Aspen, Colorado. And in that out there in Colorado, there's actually a hospital that specialized in this back in the late 70s, and that was really the only place. But as they developed and grew and built out, it just started to spread across the country. And now you can just get gender reassignment surgery everywhere. And if you're an adult, that's fine. Do whatever you want with yourself. But the problem is now we have people making decisions for children and allowing children to take drugs or get permanent gender reassignment surgery and permanently disfiguring. I don't know about you, Tam, but when I was growing up, I wanted to be a ninja. I wanted to be a police officer. I wanted to be an actor. I wanted to be a firefighter. I wanted to be an astronaut. There were so many fucking things that I wanted to be. I wanted to be a dinosaur. kids want to be a lot of things. And I at one point I even like loved playing video games at arcades so much I dressed in drag so that I could play video games for free at an arcade. You, you know, if I had done that nowadays and our parents weren't our parents, but they were like some sad excuse for an adult nowadays, they probably would have like sent me off to therapy to reaffirm my female gender, and I'd be peeing sitting down. Um, so that's uh, that's scary to think about. Um, it's especially scary to think about because it probably wouldn't even have been our parents. It probably would have been somebody at our school getting into my mind and warping my mind into believing that that's my true self, and that was something that I needed to do, and I would have been permanently disfigured if I ever changed my mind. Well, either way, I would have been permanently disfigured. Um, it, it's insane that they give these kids puberty blockers to stop them from ever going through a hormonal change that is completely natural for their body. It sucks. Pimples suck, growth pain sucks, tendon stress sucks, but that all comes with part of growing up, and being awkward and not comfortable in your body is normal. And no amount of surgery is going to make you feel better about yourself. I mean, it was ghastly when we found out that kids had nose surgery back in the late 80s and 90s because girls didn't like their noses. And then what was it, we started hearing about girls as young as 18 getting boob jobs in high school because they weren't happy with the way their boobs were, and we frowned at that. And now it's like, oh, Charlie over there thinks he's a girl, like, goodbye dick. It's like, like how, like, we keep, like, that's the problem with progressivism, where the conservatives were saying, you shouldn't do that with your child. You should let them grow up and get accustomed to who they are in their body. We put too much pressure on how we look. We need to scale that back. And everybody shits on the conservatives, or the for bringing that up. You know, uh, but it is a slippery slope, and we've like, there's no slope anymore. We've gone off the cliff now. How do you feel about that? And you just let me talk for like 17 minutes.
Well, you were on a roll. You seem like you had a lot of things you needed to express.
Well, we want to talk about this drug, and I want to make sure that we lay out the groundwork for why we're talking about this. And it does have something to do with pop culture, because I feel like pop culture is being used to reinforce this, to make it easier for these people to convince these poor kids and their parents that this stuff is necessary for their kid to be their true selves. Like, I don't know about you, but I'm 38 and I'm still trying to figure out who the fuck my true self is.
Yeah, it's just weird how the mindset, I guess, of the culture shifted to where, when we were growing up, our parents didn't even want us to like think about getting a piercing or tattoo until we're 18.
Hmm.
And then now you have these children who haven't even hit puberty yet that are getting, puberty blockers,
Hmm.
or who want these surgeries to change their genitalia. And it's at such a young age. Like, just think of how many of us have like gotten a tattoo that we regretted. That's a tattoo. Like, I
Well,
can't imagine changing.
what is that like, Tamara? What is it like getting a tattoo that you regret?
You learn to live with it. They're not mistakes, they're lessons.
Yeah, we're not speaking out of our asses. Some of us have experience with regret.
It's all lessons learned. There's
Yeah,
no
yeah.
mistakes.
But yeah, you're right. You're right. These are very permanent changes. Like, for a young girl to get gender reassignment surgery, they're going in and they're removing all of the breast tissue that's in there, and they're also removing the um, the what are they called? Uh, what kind of gland is it that produces the milk? Because they're there, they just haven't fully developed until till later on. I can't
It's like
remember what.
lacrimal ducts, but I don't
Yeah,
know.
yeah, 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 yeah. So like they go in and they remove all of that work. So like if they get older and they want to, if they've had the top surgery, they can't breastfeed if they want to, you know, and like what if you're a trans woman that's decided to have to give birth like later on, like you decide to have a child, or you're a trans man. I'm sorry, because you transitioned the other direction. You're a trans man and you decide to, to give birth to a child. Well, if you're going through a situation like what happened the beginning of this year, where there was a fucking formula shortage for some inexplicable fucking reason, we allowed a production factory to completely shut down for months on end without ever trying to get it opened back up, and we are faced with a formula shortage, and which is another like huge fucking dumb mistake that our country made, where for the longest time only ex- uh, we've only used formula that's come from this country. Like it can only be produced here. So there was no
We're going off on
international.
a tangent.
There's no international options to fill in if something shuts down here stateside. So you're in a situation like that, you can't feed your baby. Like, how are you going to feed your baby if you don't have like the basic equipment? Like, some women don't produce milk, and that's why formula's out there, you know. But for those times when formula isn't there and you're capable of producing, like, well, you're never going to know if you were going to be able to produce anyways, because you had all of your equipment removed. And then, so that's a permanent change right there. The other thing that they do is if they choose to give them a like fake useless flap of skin, they graft skin from the thigh of the individual. They just literally like fillet a piece of skin from the thigh, and then they turn it into a tube and stitch it to you, uh, on the front, and it's fucking hideous. I've seen the surgery photos
Yeah,
of it happening, and it's grotesque. It's like it's one thing if you're doing that to graft skin onto a burn victim's skin to, you know, help that area heal, because you can, like, once you get to like third degree burns, everything down to the what is it, endodermis, is completely damaged, so new skin can grow there. So you want to like to give them some sort of like uh
protection.
natural protection, right? Because you don't want just the muscle like being like right there on the surface, or veins or anything like that. You want them to have like some sort of quality of life. You'll graft skin to that area, but they're taking that technique and they're perverting it to create body parts for these individuals that aren't there. But that's not even the worst of it, because that's just cosmetic surgery. The real damage that's happening to these kids is the chemicals and the drugs that they give them, and they're incredibly harmful. And
Well, that's the
you
psychological damage,
oh
especially
yeah,
as they get older and they
yeah,
realize maybe what happened to them or that they didn't even realize. I
hmm
don't know, that would just be I don't know, that would be really difficult to get over mentally.
yeah,
Because sometimes it's honestly, because you know that there's adults out there that are targeting children or manipulating children, because they naturally abuse children. And
hmm
then now this is another form of abuse that they can enact on a child.
yeah, yep. Tis true. Um, you had pulled up something about, what's this drug that they use?
Oh, it's a
Um,
puberty blocker, and it's called Lupron.
Lupron.
Yes, and let's get it up. I think it's here.
You got it?
Yes. Do you have control over it, or do I have to do it?
No, no, I got it.
Okay.
Can you see the article pulled up?
I can.
Okay. Oh, you'll have to scroll, but I can control what's on the screen. Um, so
Oh shoot, sorry.
no,
Ignore me.
ignore me. Um, sorry. I don't know if you've seen you haven't seen all of Venture Brothers, right?
No.
Okay, yeah. Okay, go ahead and talk about this. I'll be working in the background to pull up something.
Yeah, so well, it's just this drug. So I actually learned about this drug through Candace Owens' Twitter,
Mhm.
and it's a drug that they use on women. It's called Lupron to halt their puberty. And the thing is they say that this drug is, or proponents of the drug say that it's not a big deal because the side effects are reversible.
Okay.
But that's not technically true. Um, they're not always reversible. And not only that, but there's serious health problems that come with using it,
Mhm.
especially long term. So you have women as young as their 20s and 30s experiencing bone degeneration, joint deterioration. Like they just have these long term horrific side effects
Oh,
that they're experiencing in their early adulthood because of this drug that they took
huh.
when they were children. Um,
So like, so what are like for women some of the things that happen with regards to with puberty? They for one they get their period, which is a natural that's a natural bodily function for women to go through because the uterine lining basically um, like the old uterine lining like detaches and is expelled from the body, and that's part of like what the process of the bleeding and everything that's happening during periods, and that's a normal monthly process. It's just like everything's getting refreshed down there to keep the womb nice and ready. So puberty blockers would stop that process from ever happening. So I can imagine that if you're upsetting a process that's supposed to happen once a month from happening ever again, that's going to cause issues. Like what are it, do they list specifically some of the problems that that happen with some of these women?
yeah, for instance, some of them are having to get back surgery uh, to help with, their spine cracking. They have osteoporosis. They have chronic pain. And like one of the main women that talks about her experiences, um, like the quote that she said was, "It just feels like I'm being punished for basically being experimented on when I was a child." She further then says, "I'd hate for a child to be put on Lupron, get to my age, and go through the things that I've been through." And she has chronic pain and degenerative disc disease. She's 25 years old.
So with I wonder if during puberty, another thing that happens for both men and women is bone density. So like children overall are very light because they have a like their body frame is very small and lightweight. And but then once they go through puberty, it's like the bone density increases to so that the body can handle the stronger muscles that are developed after that. Because I know what was it? Just speaking from personal experience in middle school, I actually had a horrible uh, groin injury where my groin muscle actually detached from my hip. So, like the outer edges of where the ligament attachment was to my hip bone, it just like a star pattern. Just that whole thing just pulled away, so only the center was connected, and that took me 6 months to recover from fully in middle school. But that's just because your muscles can uh, outdevelop the strength of your own bones, and that's essentially what happened to me. Is my bones weren't ready for what my muscles were capable of doing, and so instead of the muscle itself tearing, it just tore away from my bone, and it was incredibly painful. So I'm wondering if one of the natural biological processes that happens with uh, puberty and transitioning from childhood to adulthood is your body becomes a lot sturdier and capable of handling the potential uh, strength and development. So like if her spine is like is crumbling, I'm wondering if the natural processes that would have strengthened her spine to um a carry her weight in addition to like it's just a part of like natural biological function. Like women are capable of giving birth, so their body has to be prepared to carry the pregnancy through its developmental stages all the way through 40 weeks. So, Bethany is, we're expecting right now, she's pregnant, and um, like her body is going through um, a difficult process, but I couldn't imagine how she would handle the pregnancy with as much as her body has changed if she was in the same condition that you just described with this young woman. Um, that is just, yeah, that like they're like the hubris of these people to say that like that the side effects are reversible is asinine because clearly it's not reversible for these individuals. Um, the other thing too is it sterilizes them as well, doesn't it? Like does Lupin have issues with sterilizing the women from ever having children?
I don't know. I didn't look into that, but that's a
I,
good question. Like, I mean, I honestly didn't even think about that. Like, can these women procreate or be able, or if they can procreate, can they carry full term? Like, do they have any issues?
yeah, yeah. It's like yeah, I don't know. There's man, it's just really wild that we as a society aren't speaking up more against this because like and I've always had the position that or held the position that a kid can say and do whatever they want, but if they're going to make permanent changes, they should do it at a point in time that they're legally able to represent themselves, as opposed to parents encouraging a permanent change like that. Like even parents that like we frown at parent like it used to be crazy because like everyone in the country would get super upset if like somebody tattooed their toddler. You remember that? Like there was
Mhm.
like that video going around of like I think it was like 15 years ago in the early days of the internet of that like 4 or 5 year old kid or 7 year old kid that was supposedly getting a tattoo and crying, like baby's first ink or some stupid title for the uh for the um for the show. It's just man, that's just wild. Like we
Well, I
used to
mean,
freak
like,
out
people
about
don't talk up because they don't want to be labeled transphobic.
yeah, and it's like it's not about being
But it's
transphobic.
like, and I don't, my other point is like, why? What's the rush? Like,
Yeah.
what's the rush in these people transitioning? Like, why do they have to do it when they're 10? Like you don't even know
Yeah.
yourself then.
Yeah, they try to claim that it's to um they try to say that it's saving lives and preventing these kids from committing suicide because um
I bet
living
the
with
suicide rate is even higher in that group,
it's
regardless,
unchanged.
regardless of
Yeah.
changing. Yeah.
Yeah, it's unchanged. It's unchanged. It's actually steadier because the kids that because eventually kids grow out of the phase, right? So they grow up and they grow out of the phase and they're like, you know what, I'm really not that way. If they're given a chance to, and they just walk away, like the majority of them do that. But the ones that stick to it, those kids end up usually the suicide rate is pretty high in them, whether they transitioned or not, if they're seriously suffering from that stuff. So it doesn't help. It doesn't help at all. But what it does do is it mentally and physically scars these kids to the point. Like I've read so many personal accounts of people that have transitioned that have um, like one into trans woman. They're actually in the process of detransitioning, but they don't have their they don't have they don't have their parts anymore. They had their bottom surgery done, and they had a dream that that they had um, their dick back, their penis, and they woke up and immediately realized that, like, they were happy in their dream. Like, they were happy. They're like, "Oh, you're back." Like, when they saw it, it was like scarred in their mind. But then they woke up and they woke up to the reality that it's gone permanently, and they just slipped right back into that depressive state. It's incredibly harmful, and I feel for these people. Like, they're like, these people are these kids, these are getting manipulated, I think, into doing something that's permanent. And if they want to do it when they get older, let them do it. I don't care. But
But
if they're kids, let them be kids.
yeah, because I like there's nothing wrong. Like if you're a man and you want to be a woman, like no one has an issue with that. Be who you want to be.
Yeah,
Embrace who you are.
yeah,
We'll embrace you, or I'll embrace you too. But I don't know why they have to push this on children, or why it's so why like what's the rush? Like why does it have to happen now?
yeah,
Because they immediately feel that way. We have to immediately like can't they sit and think about it?
yeah. Right,
Or you're not supportive if you don't immediately like, okay, yeah, let's go to the doctor and see what we can do. It's like, no, give them time to think.
right. Oh, right.
Have them talk to someone that doesn't have their own agenda.
Yep. Um, yeah. I wanted you had mentioned ignore me. There's literally this giant character just shouts, "Ignore me!" I love that.
Did I
Um,
ignore you on accident?
do what?
Did I ignore you?
No, 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 no. You just like you said something. You're like, "Oh, ignore me," because you had switched your tabs on accident
Oh
and
yeah.
shown your dashboard. So you're like, "Ignore me," and it reminded me of that character because every time, like, he's there to observe, but it's hard to ignore him. So every time anybody speaks reference to that person, he's just like, "Ignore me."
Like it's kind of hard
Yeah,
now.
yeah. He's literally like shouting at them in this scene.
I
It,
can't hear it, but that's
oh,
funny.
you can't hear it? Oh, okay. Yeah,
Oh,
it's just, oh my
is it
god.
on? Oh,
Here, let's see if it's loud enough here.
damn, no. That's funny
Could,
though.
but yeah, no, no, no. Yeah, bit of a
Oh.
different episode today. Um, but yeah, man, it's so crazy that we went from an age where we were freaking out that parents were allowing boys to pierce their ears. Um, like, we freaked out when there were stories of parents giving their kids tattoos. We freaked out, about the nose surgery and the breast implants for 18-year-olds or
Like, think about belly
16-year-olds.
button rings, like, those were a huge
Yeah,
deal.
yeah, massive deal. Like, it was the end of the world.
Oh.
And now it's just like, cut my daughter's tits off today. Woo! We're so happy. Look at these smiles. And they're just like with gigantic scars across their chest. It's just sad. It's just really sad. Just people mutilating their kids. I blame participation trophies. Not really. Not really. It's
I
part of the
wonder
problem.
what other countries think when they see
They think it's fucking crazy.
what's going on over here, like, why are
Yeah.
we having such gender issues? Like,
Yeah. Iran is like, wait, wait, wait. You
people.
don't hang them? So
It's terrible.
that's what they do in Iran. Like, it's literally like we're
Well,
too.
here it's encouraged.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Well, yeah, yeah, yeah. It's definitely encouraged to the point that we have teachers trying to, like, probe uh
Why are teachers
kindergartners
even
and
talking about
pre-K.
their personal life?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't
Like,
know.
why are you telling them about your gender identity? Like, no one asks. They don't
Yeah,
need to know. Like,
Like you know how I knew one of my teachers, like, what was it, Miss Giffords in, middle school? Like, you know how I knew that she had, a kid and a husband? I accidentally ran into her at Walmart. I was just like, "Oh, hey, Miss Giffords, how's it going?" And, like, she was there with her husband and her, like, seven-year-old kid. I was like, "I didn't know you had a family," because she never talked about it,
yeah.
you know? The most personal thing I knew about her is that she was a Razorbacks fan. That's it. You know, and then her and Miss Collins were best friends. That like, and they were both Razorback fans because they both went to Razorback school. Fucking wherever the fuck that is, Arkansas, I guess. But I don't care about college football. But yeah, that's all I knew. Like, that was the most personal thing I knew about my teachers. You know, I didn't care about that. And matter of fact, if someone like my science teacher in high school like started it, like telling me about how they, like, yeah, my I'm just like, I didn't have any male science teachers, but if I had a male science teacher like, yeah, my husband and I went kayaking this weekend, I was like, that's cool. What about science? Like, even if it was like the other way around, like that's cool. What about science? I'm here to learn. Like, fuck, that's what school's supposed to be about. Like, educate me, show me something interesting. That just didn't happen very often, even when I was there. And the fact that it's gotten even more off the rails now is just it's just crazy. It's just
Well,
crazy
people
to
who
me.
control the media have a lot of power, and they set
Mhm.
the tone. Like, just like when they I don't know, is it like an adultification of children in movies where they have
Yeah.
these children acting like adults? You're like, "Dude, they're like 9."
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, no, that shit drives me nuts, and that really drives Bethany nuts. She's like, 7-year-olds don't talk like that. Like Jerry Maguire, like that little boy that's just like knows all those facts about all these like random things, like super smart and intelligent. Like, Bethany fucking hates that kid. She's like, no kid talks like that. That's like what Hollywood thinks children talk like. If Hollywood ever stopped long enough to, stopped screwing these kids long enough, they would and talk to them, they would probably realize that they're not adults, they're children, and they don't have the mental capacity to carry on a conversation like, "Did you know that bees make honey?" Like, yeah, yeah, I did because I'm an adult. So it's just weird. Hate these people, but yeah, that was a good. I feel like we had really good conversations there, and
we did.
yeah, it's a good to wrap up. It's no 11:30 conversation over the phone like we had last night, but
We were on the phone for like 2 hours last night.
yeah, we really need to figure out how to record our conversations because we talk about some wild ass shit. So
Batman, first 2
yeah,
seasons versus season 3 and on.
yeah. You know
Market
what?
plays. Oh, I forgot Tiffany Haddish and Aries Spears.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. We were gonna talk
That's
about that too.
true.
Yeah, if that's true or not, I don't know. I don't know. I want to see more information. Like, but the thing about that is when that story started coming, before I even heard about the rumors, I saw that Tiffany Haddish's and Ari Spears' lawyer had already released a statement. Like, the way I found out about it is there was an article about their lawyer releasing a statement uh, about the
Allegation?
claims allegations made against them, and I was just like, uh, wait, this is somebody's saying that they did this. So I mean, I don't know, but hopefully it's not true. But if it is true, hopefully they get what's coming to them. But if it's not true, I hope they get their name cleared, because that shit is fucking crazy.
Yeah.
Because I got burned by Bill Cosby. I was like, nah, there's no fucking way Bill Cosby is that big of a fucking rapist. And then, like, you get to about woman 41 or 42, you're just like, I'm starting to sense a pattern here. So yeah, that's actually, it didn't take that long. There's some pretty credible people. I was hearing creepy stuff about Bill Cosby before any of the other people came forward. Like,
I
who was it?
never heard anything creepy about Bill Cosby until that news broke, and it was just
Oh,
like, man, that's disappointing.
yeah, no, no, no. Who was it? Uh it was that one blonde chick that likes screwing black guys to get Democratic votes. Um, what's her name? She's a female comedian.
Chelsea Handler?
Yeah, Chelsea Handler. There we go. See, the way I described it, you're like, wait, who? Oh, why would he describe anybody that way? But you fucking knew who I was talking about. Yeah, Chelsea Handler.
Apologize.
Back when her show was on, the what network was that? Was it TLC or True TV? I can't remember. But when her late night show was on, and it was actually funny, kind of. She actually told a story about how when she was doing stand up, Bill Cosby saw her show, and he wanted to meet with her. And she was like, "Oh, cool, I get to meet Bill Cosby." And she's like, they're like, "Well, he's up in his room having dinner. Just head on up there." So she goes in there, and he's just, like, sitting there, like, eating, it's so fucking like, you remember the scene in, Lord of the Rings, like, the 2nd movie where the king is, like, sitting there eating food,
Yeah, and he has,
and
like,
he's like,
little
shit, that's what I'm imagining the way she described it. He's, like, sitting there just eating a steak or something like that, the way she's describing it, and, it was just a super creepy vibe, and she she alleges that like the reason why he invited her up there was to try and you know hook up with her and everything. And it was just like he like just his status, I guess, in Hollywood would have been enough to get most of these women, but he was straight up like drugging women. Like if he had handed her a drink, we'd probably be hearing a completely different story from Chelsea Handler. I think she got out of there before anything happened.
good
But
for her.
yeah, but yeah,
Well,
good, yeah, definitely good for her. I'm glad it went as far as that and didn't go any further in her situation. Other women weren't so lucky, apparently. But I can't believe that fucker
yeah,
got out
that's
of jail.
cool.
Fuck. I can't believe he got pulled out of jail.
I
But
can't imagine, like, especially, like, we almost idolize these people, or we
mhm,
used to, like
mhm,
children do, like, and they're, like, the biggest predators on earth.
yeah, yeah, and we always knew that these people like by idolizing them or like worshiping these actors and actresses, um, or musicians, that they develop something along the lines of a god complex. Like they think they can do whatever they want and not be touched. Um,
Of course they do, they're only human, like, that has
yeah.
to affect you.
But at the most, we thought it was like they take advantage of people, like they try to get
Yeah,
free stuff when it was that. Like
they're
that's
an
the extent that
asshole,
we
maybe.
thought it was.
Yeah,
Yeah. I didn't think that these people were going around fucking raping people.
yeah,
Uh,
like,
Jesus.
just like when Ricky Gervais called them, like, sexual deviants, like,
Mhm.
he knew, like, he was telling us, like, these people are not to be admired.
Oh yeah, yeah, and even before like the stuff came out about Harvey Weinstein, what's his name? Seth MacFarlane called out Harvey Weinstein and his creepy fucking ways with women before any of the allegations came out because he had
I
done
believe
something to a friend of his.
a friend of his, yeah.
Yeah, so he straight up called him out, and everybody was just like, "Oh, don't do that, don't do that." And he was like, "I don't give a shit." He didn't care. He wasn't as big. Seth MacFarlane had a name for himself at that time, but he wasn't as big as he is now. You know, he did that before he ever got shows like Orville or Family Guy was like, a household like fucking television show that people were
And that
totally
whole
aware of.
community protected him.
Yep,
I don't care
yeah,
how
every
good
single
you
one.
are or how good you think you are as a person, you protected that behavior.
Hmm. Yep, Gwyneth Paltrow, Whoopi Goldberg, Oprah Winfrey, fucking all of these people, all of these women. Uh, Took advantage. Jessica Chastain is another one. Like she's going around throwing fucking rocks at people for like how they do things, but she she was Harvey Weinstein's closest like fucking friend. Like every time that there was a chance for them to do a photo op, they were like she was practically inside of his jacket. They were so fucking close. So, like what like there's actresses like what was her fucking name? The
It's
Hunger Games
they
chick.
wanted to be next to power. Jennifer Lawrence.
Yeah. Jennifer Lawrence, like where the fuck is she? Harvey Weinstein gets thrown in jail. All of a sudden Jennifer Lawrence's career just shrivels up. Like where the fuck are her roles? Like where are her jobs? Like she does a few things. Like she tried doing independent films, which some of them are good, some of them are fucking weird, but she was a rising starlet, and then all of a sudden, like, Harvey Weinstein, her biggest backer, is in jail and her career dries up. Like, why? Like, why? Like, so many people just disappeared off the face of the planet that didn't speak up and out against that stuff. So,
And that's just him with women. Like, there's so many of them that
mhm.
are predators to children.
Yeah, yeah,
They're just gross.
yeah,
I don't
and
love them, but
yeah,
most.
and like Rose McGowan was like calling out these people for a long fucking time. Like Rose
And
McGowan was
she's
calling these people
crazy.
out.
Like,
Yeah, and she's
or a
fucking
bitch.
nuts. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, 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 yeah. But I fucking love Rose, but she gets kicked off of so much shit. Like she doesn't give a shit. Like she doesn't Rose doesn't
Good
give a
for
fuck
her.
about my viewpoints or my ideals. We're not going to agree like on on principle like how things should be, but she's at least calling people out and I fucking cheer her on every time she does it. She's she's like right up there with like Eliza Blue and stuff like that, who's fucking amazing. And
Yes, Rosa Parks.
Yeonmi Park,
The
like
truth.
yeah, those are women that we got to be listening to, not fucking Nancy Pelosi. So, but yeah, do you have anything coming up that you want to plug? Are you working on anything? Are you going to do? Are you going to record a review for Rings of Power?
No, because I feel like we went through it now.
Yeah, I'm going to treat this like our review. I
Because I
can't. I can't.
can't talk about it
I
anymore.
I can't bring myself to. I try, Tamara. The reason why I had that pulled up for like the stills of the show this morning, I woke up extra early with the intent of recording my review, and I sat there and I pulled it up and I was like, yeah, fuck, I can't do it. I can't force myself to fucking watch the show
This show is
again.
boring, and it's like, where do I begin?
Yes. I'll stick to Game of Thrones. Even though I only got 10 views. There's a review, by the way, guys, that I did on last week's episode of Game of Thrones. Head to my channel and check it out. I thought maybe the thumbnail was a little confusing because I used the same one from the first review, so I made a completely new thumbnail and put it on there so you guys knew it's a different review for a different episode. Even though I put episode 2 in the title, I just want to make sure that that you guys know it's a different review.
The troll cues help.
And I'm not raging out about the show. I actually am enjoying it. I don't think it's the best thing ever, but I think it's going in the right direction. It's got some good uh interesting storylines as opposed to little people with big feet and women that are awesome at killing stuff. So, which is not, I mean, it's not a bad thing, but you know, they're just so much more competent than any other person in the room.
Why I just don't understand why they have to have the women be like, why there has to be such a huge disparity between the genders. Like, why can't they both bring something to the table?
Exactly. That's that's a good story. That's a good story.
Yeah, why can't they complement one another?
Yeah, like if you look at the final what was it? The final battle in Return to the King when what's her name takes out the Leech King. That's like a fucking awesome scene. She ends up killing him. He's like, no man can kill me. And she's like takes off the helmet. She's like, I'm no man, and then stabs him in the face. Like that was fucking awesome. She knew that it like that was she was going to. She knew she wasn't going to win, but she was still fighting with every fucking ounce of life that she had. And unfortunately, she ends up dying next to her dad, who's the king. So, but yeah, yeah, you can make incredibly you can I hate it when they diminish the role of a female character in a series. That's my biggest complaint about Sword Art Online. They have this if you ever want to watch a really good anime, watch Sword Art Online. That's probably a good entry point for someone that's not really into anime. But like you have this female character in the series, Asuna, who's um badass. Like she's like in the world of Sword Art Online, she is like like blow for blow, just as like almost as good as Ichiro or what Kirito, not Ichiro. Ichiro's a different anime. Kirito, uh, who is just a phenomenal swordsman, and she's like right there, like a bit of a different style, but she's right there with him in terms of like being able to handle herself in a fight. And they diminish her role as the series goes on, and they kind of try to bring her back to like to show off that she's still got still got the goods, but they kind of leave her behind at a certain point once the story like gets to a certain arc. And it's just like I hated that. I hate when they diminish a badass female character on a series, and like it's not good for you, it's not good for anybody, and that's not what people are calling for. What we're calling for is badass characters, male and female, that equally contribute to the success of whatever storyline that they're involved in. And man, it's just they don't know how to write anymore. It's just really bad. It's really, really bad. And it's like I'm not gonna sit there and say like, oh, I could write something 1,000 times better than these people. Like, no, if I wrote something, it would probably sound just like these fucking shows. That's why I don't write them. The difference between me and them is I know I suck. So
Yeah, that's good storytelling. That's all we ask for.
yeah. But yeah. Next thing I'm doing, I need to play games more on stream, but since I got monkeypox, I've kind of put off on that. But I don't really have monkeypox. I should probably clarify that. But I need to do that. I don't know if I'm going to get to that, get to gaming and streaming again. But the yeah, I got that going, and what else do I have? Oh yeah. Tomorrow night, Game of Thrones episode 3 comes out. I'm gonna be watching that. Um, Nobody watches this far into the stream, so I don't know if I should be like, if you want me to live stream my review, let me know down below in the comments. I'll just practice doing that for now, because eventually we're gonna have people.
Yes.
Yeah, we're gonna have a couple of zeros and a number in front someday. Um,
It
but
takes time to
yeah,
build.
it does. It does. Oh, I have it
Oh,
up here.
deal.
Finally finished
It looks good.
putting it together, painting it.
Is it a matte black?
Yeah,
I like it.
Yeah, I did it all in matte.
It looks nice.
Pretty cool. I enjoyed doing this. This was a lot of fun. Thank you for getting this for me for Christmas.
Oh yeah, you're welcome.
Hmm.
My pleasure.
Although I let it sit a little too long, and I think the paint was still a little dry. So this like little nose cone is supposed to it's supposed to pull out, and there's there's more
So
detail
it's
under
kinda
the
soft.
hood, but it's kind of like glued because of the paint. So I tried pulling it out, and I just ended up pulling the whole nose cone off.
Um,
But yeah, that was fun. I want to get more.
Good. All right. Well, I hope you enjoy the rest of your day.
Yeah, you too, Tim. And don't call me immediately after this, okay? You do that every time.
I
We just
do.
we just got done talking for an hour. Like, get a life.
You're the only friend I
Right? I'm just kidding. She doesn't do that. But all right. Adios, Tim.